Let me tell you a story. At midnight, October 1871, a cold wind cuts through the pine forests of York County, South Carolina. Torches stay unlit. Footsteps press quietly into the damp earth. 600 black men advance in total silence. They're not farmers, not bystanders, not victims. They're soldiers, armed, organized, and determined. Inside the plantation house ahead of them, 11 Klansmen hide behind locked doors, shaking, whispering prayers they never said for the people they terrorized. What's about to happen in the next 60 seconds will rewrite everything you thought you knew about American history. But you were never supposed to hear this story. Because once the smoke cleared, those in power buried it so deep that most Americans grew up believing the exact opposite of what truly happened. Tonight, we dig it back up. And we start with one question. What happens when the people written out of history decide to write themselves back in? The Civil War had ended, but peace never came. Enslavement was outlawed, but hatred wasn't. 4 million black Americans were declared free on paper, but the ink hadn't even dried before the backlash began. Across the South, white supremacists didn't accept defeat. They accepted rage, and they weaponized it. Groups of former Confederate soldiers, angry and humiliated, formed a secret brotherhood dedicated to restoring white dominance. They called themselves the Ku Klux Klan. They rode at night, wrapped in white hoods, chasing terror like it was a sport. A freedman who voted. Burn his house, a black teacher opening a school, whip them until their blood paints the dirt, a father bold enough to buy land. Kill him and force his family to flee. The violence spread so quickly that some counties averaged 2 attacks every single night. Local authorities didn't protect black families. They protected the attackers. Sheriffs refused to investigate. Judges dismissed cases before witnesses even opened their mouths. White supremacy didn't fade after the Civil War. It metastasized. But here's where the story twists. Where historians should have placed a spotlight, they left darkness. Because black Americans didn't cower, they didn't beg, they didn't fold, they organized. Under the Reconstruction government, one that briefly recognized black citizenship, several southern states legally formed state militias. For the first time in U.S. history, thousands of black men wore uniforms, carried rifles, marched in formation, and held official military rank. Not tokens, not assistants, not symbolic roles. Captains, lieutenants, commanders. These soldiers weren't improvising self-defense. They were the law. South Carolina became the beating heart of this transformation. By 1870, its militia was majority black, a reality so shocking that Southern newspapers exploded in racist hysteria. Cartoons depicted black soldiers as savages with rifles. Politicians claimed black officers wanted to destroy white society. White citizens whispered rumors of uprisings that only existed in their own fear. But the truth was simple. Black communities were finally able to protect themselves, and that more than anything terrified the men who built their power on black defenselessness. Among these officers stood a man whose name should be as famous as any Civil War general, but instead, history erased him. Captain Jim Williams. Born enslaved, raised under threats, whips, and chains. But after emancipation, he did what every former enslaved man was never expected to do. He became a leader. Williams trained his men like professionals, drilling them until they could march, fire, reload, and coordinate better than most Confederate units ever had. His company wasn't a ragtag group of farmers with guns. They were disciplined, they were strategic, and they were feared not by black citizens, but by the Klan. Williams had seen too much. Families burned alive, children left orphaned, widows forced to watch as their husbands were lynched. Every time he reported attacks, white officials shrugged. Every time he requested assistance, they investigated and did nothing. Every plea for justice disappeared in a courthouse drawer. Eventually, Williams came to a conclusion. If the law refuses to stop terrorism, then the law must ride with us as we stop it ourselves. President Ulysses S. Grant saw the flames spreading across the South and realized something had to change. He knew the Klan wasn't a social club. It was a domestic terrorist organization. So in 1871, he pushed Congress to pass the Ku Klux Klan Act, a law granting him the authority to crush the organization with military force. Grant declared martial law in several South Carolina counties. Troops poured in, but the most important detail, the one almost no textbook mentions, is this. Federal soldiers did not fight the Klan alone. They partnered with black militias as equal allies. For the first and only time in U.S. history, the government recognized armed black resistance as legitimate military force. Black captains, former slaves, interrogated white suspects. Black companies conducted raids with federal backing. Black soldiers marched beside Union veterans as brothers in arms. The racial hierarchy of the South didn't just bend, it shattered. October 1871, York County was drowning in Klan violence. White terrorists had just lynched a black militiaman, leaving his body hanging as a message. Join the militia, and this is your fate. The Klan expected fear, expected retreat, expected silence. But Jim Williams heard that message differently. To him, it meant, do nothing, and they will kill us, one by one. Fight back, and we might live. Williams gathered his men, hundreds of them. Rifles cleaned, boots tightened, hearts steady. As the moon climbed the sky, they moved out. No talking, no torches, just the rhythm of hundreds of feet marching through the night. Their target, the plantation home of a known Klan leader, a man who bragged about how many black families he'd taught lessons. But tonight, the lesson was his. Williams positioned his soldiers in a circle around the house, a perfect perimeter. Every exit covered, every shadow watched. Then the command was given. The doors didn't open, they exploded. Inside, the terrorizers became the terrified. The same men who had dragged black citizens from their homes were now dragged from theirs, hands bound, faces pale, weapons confiscated. Not a single bullet was fired. The entire operation was clean, disciplined, lawful, and devastatingly effective. 11 Klansmen captured in under a minute. This wasn't a mob taking revenge. This was a military unit delivering justice, and it worked. Word of Williams' raid tore through South Carolina like lightning. Suddenly, black captains across the state realized, we can stop them. We don't have to hide. We don't have to wait for white approval. We can defend our people, and they did. In Union County, a black militia arrested 19 Klansmen in a single night. In Spartanburg, Klansmen ran for the North Carolina border before the militia even arrived. In multiple counties, Klan activity didn't just slow, it collapsed. Historians reviewing court records discovered something astonishing. Where black militias operated, Klan attacks dropped by up to 90%. That's not an estimate. That's the data. The narrative Americans were taught that the Klan was unstoppable and Reconstruction was chaos is completely false. Black military resistance nearly erased the Klan in 1871. The defeat wasn't symbolic. It was total. Federal prosecutors capitalized on this momentum, arresting over 600 Klansmen for trial. Black militia officers testified in court, describing the crimes these men committed. For the first time, white terrorists saw real consequences. The Klan's power shattered, its members fled or surrendered. The original Klan dissolved. Let that sink in. Black soldiers destroyed the KKK, not decades later, not during the Civil Rights era, but in 1871. This victory should have changed America. It should have taught the nation that black communities could govern, protect, and defend themselves with discipline and courage. But powerful people saw something else, something they feared. They saw black men with authority, black communities with organization, black officers commanding white criminals, black citizens no longer afraid, and to many northern whites, even those who supported abolition, this was a threat. If black militias could crush the Klan, What else could they challenge? Unfair labor systems, political corruption, economic dominance. So one by one, white politicians pulled their support. Funding disappeared. Federal troops withdrew. Reconstruction governments were sabotaged through intimidation and fraud. White supremacist redeemer politicians took over. The first thing they did? Disarm black militias, arrest their leaders, erase the record of their victories. Within 1 year of defeating the Klan, Captain Jim Williams was targeted. In 1872, white supremacists captured him, tortured him, and murdered him. No arrests, no trials, no accountability. The same government that marched beside him abandoned him, and then the final betrayal, the erasure. Textbooks rewrote the story. Teachers omitted names. Scholars downplayed victories. Northern publishers presented black people as helpless victims rather than the soldiers who had crushed domestic terrorism. For a century, Americans grew up believing a lie. Here is the truth. The original Ku Klux Klan didn't fade away because Americans became more moral. It collapsed because black communities defeated it with military discipline and legal authority. The second Klan, the one that resurged in 1915 and spread across America, only became powerful because black citizens had been deliberately disarmed and politically silenced. Jim Crow wasn't built on segregation. It was built on fear. Fear of what happened in 1871. Fear of black power. Fear of organized resistance. Every gun law restricting black ownership. Every ban on black militia activity, every rule against black assemblies, every public safety ordinance. They all lead back to one night, the night 600 black soldiers surrounded a plantation house and proved that white supremacy could be defeated. This is the chapter they never wanted you to read, because once you know this, you understand something essential. Black freedom has always come from black resistance, not white permission. And once a people know that truth, you can never make them forget again. Remember this story. Remember Jim Williams. Remember the militia companies that marched through the darkness to protect a people who had spent centuries unprotected. Their names were buried. Their deeds were erased. But their victory was real. The Klan ran, the terrorists fell, justice marched, and for one brief moment in American history, the men who had been enslaved became the defenders of freedom. This is not lost history. This is stolen history. And today, we take it back.